understood. You've been
Thank you so much.
you've been following my YouTube and on my Facebook, right? Now,
Exactly.
your buyer from Holland, from Poland, wanted 25 kilos, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So the buyer has to send a formal letter of interest to identify himself. Because
Okay.
we don't know him and we don't believe that he can afford 25 kilos unless he will send a formal letter, because we need to identify himself. 25
Okay.
kilos is already over $1 million.
Exactly.
So we
That
are,
is why I was
yeah.
asking of an age of 35 to 36 years, would the person be capable of paying such amount of money?
No, I wouldn't believe it unless the buyer can provide
Because he
me
came in with his passport. The
passport.
person
Is
came in with his passport.
no, passport is not enough. Our policy
Exactly.
is
No.
very clear. If the buyer wanted 25 kilos, he has to show his identification, a copy of his business
Okay.
registration, his importation
Okay.
license, passport copy,
Okay.
and the bank statement that he has over
Okay.
$1 million. Right.
Yes.
Without that, I
Yeah,
wouldn't
so
believe
looking
it.
at, I was just wondering, looking at his age, somewhere around 35, 36, based on the passport that he issued, I just thought that this wouldn't be possible, because looking at the range and how he is in need of such quantity, how would he be able to pay such amount of money? So I was a lot of doubts, and I was just looking for you in such a way that I'll be able to get in touch with you to have more conversation and see how best we'll be able to work on this, because looking at his age, I realized that he wouldn't be able, he's not capable, at least he wouldn't be able to raise such an amount of money to purchase such product. So I was just wondering, and I wanted to be sure. That's all.
Unless he is the CEO of the company. Unless. That is the reason why the buyer needs to send an interest to buy, interest to purchase, called LOI.
Okay.
Maybe that guy from Poland, he is not a buyer. He belonged to the chain block of Joker Broker.
Okay. And honestly, you know that these brokers, they are not serious. With looking at their XPA, you realize that it has a whole lot of content which you cannot even control. So whilst you are also having your own proceedings and it's not going by your procedure, how would this thing be possible
Well,
for you to
the
work
procedure
together?
is very clear. The buyer has to place an order, then we will respond to the buyer. The procedure is very clear and simple. If the buyer is real, he has to follow it, because the buyer needs the supply. So when the buyer read the full corporate offer on my YouTube and on my Facebook and on WhatsApp, the buyer will understand, because the buyer is hungry of the supply. Now, when the buyer send a LOI, I will scrutinize the buyer's background. I'm the one will scrutinize the buyer. When I'm satisfied, then I will advise my seller in Mali to proceed. Yes.
Okay.
Without my validation, that buyer wouldn't be able to afford $1,325,000. I don't think so. He has over $1 million.
Yes.
I don't think so.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
He's only
Because
35 years old.
I've valued the person on several occasions, looking at the passport that he issued, and I was with a lot of doubt because of the quantity needed. Actually, I was even convincing him to come and purchase the little money that he has. He should come in with it and come and purchase whatsoever quantity it will be able to buy. But he said no. He's fully prepared, and for that matter, he'll be able to purchase it at the end of the
Well,
day.
if he's prepared, he has to convince us that he has to show us his business registration, because that business
Yes.
registration and importation license will signify that he is a true buyer. Yes, even though he's 35 years old, you never know he's a multimillionaire. You never know he owned the company, but he has to convince us, because this is over $1 million. Yeah.
Okay.
It doesn't matter if he's 35 years old. You never know. He become millionaire at the age of 35. But he has to convince us.
Exactly. Exactly.
Did you
Exactly.
ask? Did you
Exactly.
ask the buyer where the gold to be delivered?
Exactly. He actually wanted to come in. So when he traveled to Africa, especially to Mali, he will therefore sit down with the seller and then discuss the procedures in which we will do the exportation of the product at the end of the day. Probably if he's supposed to buy small quantity, then that means he has to go along with the product by doing hand carrying through the airplane.
Well, it's
So
very difficult. The government has changed. Without export documentation in the name of the buyer, he cannot hand carry. He wouldn't be able.
okay.
He has to be guided properly. Yeah, he has to.
Yes, yes, yes. Because each and every time things are changing and they are trying to improve upon most of their documentation processes. I've realized those things way back when we entered into this particular year. You realize that things are changing and there's a whole lot of things which are coming in and out. So
Well,
I was even
Mali
thinking that
government has changed because I think last year there were 50 tons of gold was being confiscated in the airport by the French military, and they tried to smuggle 50 tons of gold, and the gold was being confiscated. Yes, yes,
that's what
yeah.
I have understood.
So
So anytime that you approach them, they find it very difficult to give you the real reason why they really want you to come in with the delivering process for the person to understand and get the whole concept that this is the right proceedings in which you are going to use. Because they will tell you that when you do such proceedings, they wouldn't be able to get the product at the end of the day.
well,
So they should.
he will get as long the buyer really identified. The procedure is really very clear. I'll give you an example, Eric. You are the seller
Yeah.
and I am the buyer. Okay, I
Okay.
am based in Australia. I would love to buy gold from you. This is only an example,
Okay.
so that the world understand. Now, I am
Okay.
interested to purchase 25 kilos to you that you are
Okay.
based in Mali, but you are based in Ghana. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to ask you, as being a seller, what necessary export documentation I'm going to take out of the country. Right. So when I send a letter of interest to buy, I will introduce myself that I'm Mrs. Ford. Here's my business license. Here's my importation license. Then you will understand that I am a real buyer. Okay. So
Okay.
when you receive my LOI, this is only an example, right? When you
Yeah.
receive my letter of interest, then you will respond to me.
Yes.
You have to send me your company background, who you are. Okay. Because I already identify myself that I'm a buyer. So then, when you send me a response, then you have to send me a contract. The contract will stipulate everything, the seller's name, address, etc., etc. Right? And the price.
Yeah.
So being a buyer, there is always room for negotiation. Okay?
Exactly.
Now,
Exactly.
I'm going to turn back myself. Wilhelmina's role is to facilitate the buyer and the seller. That is the reason why I put everything on the social media so that the buyer understand what he is entering into. Right.
Exactly.
Now, you are a broker. Everybody wants to earn a living. That is fine. But you have to understand that this is over $1 million.
Exactly.
So what you have to do, you create a group chat. I want to interview that Polish buyer, whether he is able to afford to travel and pay the gold bank to bank. Mhm. Now
Yeah.
I want you to read the full corporate offer that I have given you during our
Okay.
conversation. I want you to read, and then you create a group chat. I will interview
Okay.
the buyer. Don't hide, don't cut
Okay.
and paste. I want the buyer to understand because most of the international buyer, they are hesitant because most of the chain block
Okay.
of broker joker, they cut and paste. Do not cut and paste.
Okay.
Let the buyer and create a group chat. You will be paid as introductory referral fee. Let me handle it because I am the mandate of the seller.
I know.
I have the power to say yes or no, and I have the power to negotiate on behalf of the buyer, even though the selling price is less 8%. I have the
Okay.
power to ask the head office to give the buyer a leeway. Right.
Okay.
We don't pay
Okay.
double commission. We don't. We don't. That's the reason why the company hired me, because we want the buyer to deal with us. Most of the joker broker,
Exactly.
they're scared to show their buyer
Exactly.
because they're scared of their commission. That is not our problem.
Exactly, and also the racism too is also one of the biggest challenge that we are having. When the whites realize that he's black, and for that matter, there's a whole lot of hula balloon about this scam information which has been spread across the globe. They find it very difficult to relate to the black because they know that at the end of the day they wouldn't be able to get back what they need from us. So it becomes very difficult
The reason
for
why
you to.
the buyers are prejudiced, why? Yourself alone, you don't show your face. International buyers are hesitant to deal with any one of you because you use picture and you're hiding your face. If you sell your products, you need to show your face, you need to know your product knowledge. Most of the blockchain of joker broker, they come to Wilhelmina because I am the only person who can show my face. I tell the truth because the head office was telling me they're sick and tired to deal with chain of block of joker broker. We want to prepare to deal directly to the buyer, then we give the buyer a very good price. But the online joker broker, they want to earn a living. That is not a problem to me. I myself will compensate the joker broker. I call them joker broker because they don't read. Yeah. Now,
Yes,
are you satisfied with my answer?
yes, I'm satisfied with your answer. And I'm so grateful, very, very, very grateful to have such information from you because it has become one of the major challenges between the blacks and the whites. And it's hula balloon about these scam issues here and there, whereby they are trying to find ways and means for the process of delivery, how best the person will be able to exchange his or her money for a product or a commodity at the end of the day,
Well,
which we are also looking at it.
Well, to exchange money, the buyer has to transfer payment from his bank account to the seller's bank account. Before he transfer,
Exactly.
we're gonna have a contract. We have to know the buyer's background. We will stipulate on the contract. Without that, the
Yeah.
buyer will be on limbo. Most of the joker broker, they cut and paste. So therefore, the buyer is on limbo. That is the reason why buyer doesn't trust you guys.
Okay. So you realize that they will come in with there is nothing like paying off any upfront,
No,
which
there's no
you
upfront. There's no upfront.
no,
There's
no,
none.
there's nothing like you paying for any upfront
No, there's
because they
none.
will never be.
No. There is no upfront. They have to travel, inspect his reservation. When he inspect, the gold has to be assay. The buyer has to pay $150 or $100. It depends. I can negotiate with my head office. There is no upfront. I don't know why buyers are
Well,
saying, I want to buy gold. I don't want to pay upfront. There is no upfront.
yes, there's no upfront. So you realize that when such situation happens that where you are trying to explain certain things to them for them to understand that yes, there is nothing like paying off upfront, but you are supposed to come in for us to work together. Which simply tells you that if you are in need of anything, we have to process everything and for you to get the visa to travel to us.
Yes.
So,
Before, when the
so when,
buyer,
when you try to restate that this is the situation and you are supposed to pay probably maybe $100 for a visa fee for the visa charges so that you wouldn't have any challenges.
then
For
we
easy,
put that on the contract. Everything must be on the contract. There is no upfront. When the buyer make a reservation of 25 kilos, the 25 kilos would be ready for the buyer to inspect. And the buyer has to taste the gold before he transfer the payment bank to bank. And before he travel, he has to advise his bank manager that he's buying valued goods to Africa. I'll tell you why. Because one of my buyer last year, she forgot to inform his bank, and his bank was been frozen.
I
Yes.
see.
I say yes. So before you leave, you're gonna show the contract to your bank manager that you're going to travel to Mali. I'm buying valued goods so that your bank would not be suspicious because Africa is fan of gold laundering. Yes.
Exactly. Exactly. That is why most of them find it very difficult to issue out their company's license to any foreigner if he doesn't know the person, because it is not secure, and he could even lose everything at the end
Well,
of
the
the day. They
buyer
can
will
even
be
use
secured
it.
to us because Wilhelmina is the one who promote Africa to the world market. Right.
I know.
So if the buyer
I know.
search gold on YouTube, they have to listen to the video. They have to read before they come to Wilhelmina for conference. There is no upfront at all. Why these people were saying, oh, upfront? No, there is no upfront. The buyer has to pay. Yes. I'll give you an example. Last year, I brought the buyer, right? And the buyer was being scammed in your country in Ghana. And then
Exactly.
both buyers and seller, they're male and female. They saw me, right? When they saw me, they
Uh-huh.
kept on reading and reading. I communicated with them for 2 months. So they were hesitant, and I told him, why are you going to be hesitant? You already met Walamina. And I asked her, open your camera. They are very young. They're both African. The man was born, his parent was born in Ghana, and the lady was born in
Uh-huh.
Ethiopia, and they migrated in United States, right? And
Okay.
and these two partner, they're very young, and I allowed them to get 5 kilos in Conakry. That was 2022. Mhm. So
Okay.
they're very excited when they arrive because I do charge my extra service to accompany them. So they pay my
Okay.
services, and I arrive in Conakry ahead of time. And I meet them with my driver. You know what the buyer from United States? You know what they said? They said, "Your services
Mhm.
is worth it, Mrs. Ford. It's worth it."
Okay.
I charged them $15,000 last year. Mhm.
Okay.
Today, I'm charging $20,000 to cover my travel cost because the airline has increased, the hotel accommodation has increased, gold is no longer cheap, and any commodities, any accommodation is not a cheap. Gold is money the
Yes.
buyer is buying, you must remember. So I need to be on the ground to assist the buyer.
Okay.
Without Wilhelmina, I'm telling you 100% the buyer will encounter disaster.
Oh, exactly. The person will not come to Africa because it has become one of the biggest challenges, not only in Ghana, people in Egypt. Look at the color of these Egyptians. They are even the same as whites, but yet still they are also having the same challenges whereby people are not willing to come and work with them because of what is happening across the globe, especially in Africa, demanding about the huge scam uh, rate that we have within this country in Africa as a whole.
The problem why the African has been tarnished because in the
That's
past,
why I always find it very difficult to meet real buyers. That is why I'm fighting as much as possible to get in touch with you, and let's see how things are going to work, because I believe
it's not
that when you come
difficult.
in,
It's not really difficult if the buyer has a good appetite because I don't have any problem.
so
I don't have any problem entertaining buyer. I don't chase buyer. Buyer is chasing because gold is money.
I know
I don't chase buyer.
exactly. Money. It's money. I get you 100%. I get you. I get you. That is why I always want to get to you so that we will be able to see how best this white will be able to come in, not only in Ghana, but across Africa. If Mali, Guinea, whatsoever that you may have access for us
Even in
to work
Sierra
together. I
Leone,
believe that.
buyer are scared to travel. I'm a woman from Australia. I travel by myself. I don't have any problem at all because my seller hired Wilhelmina. So the buyer will be feel comfortable when the buyer will talk to Wilhelmina because my seller is a real seller. My seller produce gold and diamond. So my seller is real. I've been to Sierra Leone, I've been to Mali, I've been to Conakry. So if the buyer come to us, I will be with them with on the ground. I can guarantee 100% the buyer will get the gold. Because
Exactly.
if the buyer would not be advised properly, guaranteed the buyer will fail. Guaranteed.
Okay.
Mhm.
I get you. I get you. I get you. I get you.
So you
It's
get
very,
me.
very good that we always have to keep in touch because the people that I'm meeting, yeah, I think that was last 2 days.
Yeah?
I had a broker from Germany.
Yeah?
He wanted us to export to Dubai. He said the buyer is not willing to pay any upfront,
There's no
and the buyer
upfront.
is also not willing to travel.
If the
The
buyer from
information now,
Dubai, Eric,
he said the buyer is in Dubai, and also he's not willing to travel to Africa to come and purchase any product. But if you are able to send the product to him direct in Dubai, the exact after the essay reports, after we have gone through the refinery processes, payment will be done within a short period of time,
he's
not
not a
within
buyer,
24
Eric.
hours.
Eric is not a buyer. He's not. He's a
Okay.
joker broker.
Okay.
He's not. I've
Yes,
been to
he's a broker,
Dubai.
as I said. He's a broker.
Yeah, he's a broker. He's a
He's a
joker
broker.
broker. Why I call broker
Yeah,
a joker? Because gold is not a joke business. No, it's not.
exactly. 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 Because this brokers has become one of the major issues that we are facing,
Yeah.
whereby you wouldn't see real people, the real buyers who are interested in the product for us to also make money at the end of the day. It's very,
I'll
very,
tell
very
you, Eric.
important.
When I was in Dubai, in Africa, I always stop over in Dubai. Okay, there was
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
young guy that he chatted with me on Botim because in Dubai, WhatsApp is not acceptable on video call. So I told him that
Okay.
download on Botim because I want to see you on live video call. He's a very young guy, and I asked him to come to my hotel. I stayed at the Holiday Inn during the time, and he come to
Okay.
me and he said to during my conversation he said he's a buyer. Okay, and I told him I
Okay.
would like to invite you to have a drink in the bar. So we are having afternoon tea in the bar, and he was my guest. And I told him, make an order, be my guest. So while we are eating, because my style is completely different from Joker Broker. My style is I
Okay.
want to know the language of my conversation with the buyer. So
Okay.
he said that he is a buyer and he has a big appetite. That's okay. I was listening to this young joker broker. Middle of
Okay.
conversation, I detect him that he said he has the buyer. Okay, so I told him, you know what? May I educate you? I told young joker broker, when you were talking to a woman like me that I've been in marketing for 36 years, do not say that you are
I
a
know.
buyer. Tell the person that I am outsourcing on behalf of the buyer. That is very clear. So he was blushed because I told him, do not deceive yourself. Because to me, you are my guest. I noticed that you are not really transparent. Where is your buyer?
Yeah.
Bring your buyer. While I'm here in Dubai, I want to meet your buyer so that buyer understand. Now, for long conversation, he said the buyer wanted the gold to be delivered to him, and I told him, tell your buyer good luck.
Okay.
Immediately, I cut the conversation. Immediately. So at least he enjoyed my meeting, and I paid the food, and I told him be my guest, and next time I want you to be refrained that you are a buyer. You have to tell that you are outsourcing on behalf of your buyer, right? Because that is not professional. He's an African guy.
Yeah.
He's African.
Okay.
He was stuck in Dubai. Yeah.
Okay.
You want to earn
Okay.
a living. I told him you can earn a living if your buyer is real.
Exactly. Exactly.
See?
Exactly.
There's so many joker buyer in Dubai, I'm telling you. And Dubai is they use Dubai to smuggle gold from Africa. I'll give you the video on dirty gold from Africa to Dubai to Switzerland. I will give you the video. I want you to learn that because since I listened to that video, I advised my head office never ignite and never allow any buyer asking bring the gold to Istanbul or Dubai, no upfront. Tell them good luck because gold has to be paid. Mhm.
Exactly.
Gold is not banana.
Exactly. Gold has to be paid.
Yes.
It's equivalent to money. So
Yes.
they have to pay.
Yes.
They have to pay.
The
So
payment.
if they are
Yeah, go
finding it
ahead.
very difficult to pay, then that means automatically they are not real and they are not serious
They are
about
not
the business
real.
that you want to do together.
Because the payment must be bank to bank in order for the seller to show to his government the cash inflow. The cash inflow means is the receipt of the payment from the buyer in order for the seller to apply for the certificate of clearance before the gold to be taken out of the country. Without that, the buyer and the seller will encounter disaster 100%.
Okay.
So
Okay.
there's
Okay.
no such broker explain to you like this, Eric. There's none.
Okay. 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 Okay.
So
I get you now.
you're
I get you.
satisfied now with my explanation to you?
Yes, 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 very much, very, very much. I'm clear now, and I thank you so much, so much for your education that you have been able to educate me on the few questions that I asked, and I'm
Why
so
did you not
grateful
learn
to you.
before? You've been running around since last year. You've been
No,
running around and running around. Why did you not read? It's very clear and simple.
the point is, you see, you really have to work at the same time. See how best you also have time for meeting people online. You really have to go to the villages to see if you are going to get some of the products to purchase.
No, you don't need to go
So
to the
at the end,
village. No, the buyer would not go to the village. I discourage the buyer. No, any seller invite the buyer to go to the village. Don't. The gold is already in the city. My seller is the one who produced gold. Why the buyer will go to the village for? That the gold is ready. It is on the personal vault of my seller. Why the buyer go to the
okay,
village? Do you want the buyer to be kidnapped? I would not encourage the buyer to go to the village. No.
okay,
I was in your
okay,
country in Ghana. I went to the village because
okay,
I'm the seller's mandate. I have to go to the village. I bring food. The buyer is not understanding about your culture. No, the buyer would not buy food to the villagers. No, why the buyer will come to the village? I will go to the village because I am the mandate of the seller. Yeah, the
okay,
international buyer
okay.
would not buy food. You people working in the village, there is no cafeteria, there is no restaurant. They're gonna be hungry. So
Yeah, there's no restaurant. Yes, yes, it's true. There's no
myself,
restaurant.
yeah, myself, because my heart is big, I buy bread, I buy food in order to feed to the worker because I want to
Yeah,
establish a good relationship with the villagers because I'm the mandate of the seller. But I will discourage
yeah.
the buyer to go to the village. I will not.
Sure. Probably that is very very necessary because the person has to. You really have to look at the person's condition before you even think about carrying the
Yes.
person to their such places.
No.
Because if you are going to such areas and you realize that it wouldn't be a good health for the person, then that means it's not necessary for you to take the person to such areas.
So
So it will be,
the seller offered the buyer very cheap price and then go to the village. At the end of the day, the buyer would not get the gold. I'm telling you.
exactly. The buyer will not get the gold because there was this situation whereby people find it very difficult to travel to such far areas because of the kind of conditions that
I
and the
wouldn't encourage
experiences
the
that they
buyer
are.
to go to the village. I wouldn't.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
wouldn't at
yeah,
all.
yeah.
I prefer the
There's a whole
buyer to
lot
a
of
company in the city, in the
there's a whole lot
office.
of challenges going on.
Yes.
There's a whole lot of challenges going on, and I do understand what you're saying. It's true because we have a lot of experiences, bad experiences when you get to the village because the village is lacking. There's a whole lot of things that you wouldn't get as you are in the city. You get so many things in the city, but you wouldn't get it once you get to the village. And looking at uh, your situation, automatically it is not it is not advised for you to get to the village because of your health condition.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
very, very
And the
important.
foreigner is, I wouldn't dare the buyer. My buyer from United States. Well, Amina, do we have to go to the village? I said no. You would not. You come to the
No.
office and look at your order, then test the gold. As simple as that. Hmm.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Majority.
you must remember, Eric, when I travel with the buyer, I make sure that the buyer is happy with my services. That is why I do charge my services non-refundable. Yeah.
Okay.
If the buyer cannot afford to me, he is not a buyer. Mhm.
Exactly. Exactly.
He's
Exactly.
buying
Exactly.
$1 million and then he cannot afford my extra service to me. He's not a buyer. He's just a joker.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Yes.
So
Yes. Yes.
now you
Yes.
understand now what I'm saying.
Yes, very, very much. I easily understand everything, and I'm going to put those things into consideration to see how best things are going to work for me this time around.
I will give you a
Yeah.
copy of our conversation so that you will listen and listen and
Okay.
listen and listen. Because the
Okay.
seller would not explain to you like this. The procedure, what
Exactly.
necessary
Exactly.
requirements,
Exactly.
the buyer will get it's on this video and on that procedure. You're a winner to talk to Mrs. Ford, so you gain knowledge worth of more than $1 million.
Yes.
We're selling
Knowledge
billion
is
dollars worth of gold. You must remember.
exactly. Exactly. You're always right. You're always right. You're always right. It's very, very important for I to get you in my life so that you'll be able to advise me on certain challenges that I've been facing each and every time, and how things have been arranged. And at the end of the day, the buyers wouldn't reply anymore. You wouldn't even hear from them. Not because they are gone. They wouldn't block you. They are there, but they will not respond to you again. You wouldn't know the reason why. After you have been able to communicate with the person, to know the person's background, to see how capable he is able to purchase such product, within the next conversation that you may have with the person wouldn't reply you again. The
They are not a
conversation
buyer,
ends on.
Eric. They are just a window shopper. I'll give you another example. There was an American guy and also a guy from Holland. I met them,
Okay.
and this American guy, he was also talking to me 3 months. Okay, so this guy from Holland and this American guy, they traveled to Sierra Leone. Mhm. They met
Okay.
this guy from Holland. They met me in Jibora Hotel in Dubai. I stayed at Jibora Hotel, and he was there for me. He was there meeting with me, and he's a dignified businessman. Mhm. He's
Okay.
disguising himself, but I study his language of conversation. So at the end of
Okay.
my conversation, he's just going to open a company to make money from Holland to Dubai. Mhm. And
Okay.
he has an apartment in Dubai. So he's a little bit of businessman. So I observed
Okay.
him, and middle of my conversation, I told him I think you wouldn't be able to afford because he wanted to buy 1 kilo. Okay, so I told him
Mhm.
save money because 1 kilo is not worth it. Mhm. So this
Okay.
guy, he flew to Sierra Leone. Mhm. He was being offered in Sierra Leone, and he flew,
Okay.
and he didn't come back to me. That's fine because to me I'm not chasing. You wanna buy, you buy.
Yeah.
So I
Yes.
communicated with him, how are you? And he said he just been to Sierra Leone. So he said to me that Sierra Leone is full of scammer. Mhm. And I told him, yeah, yeah. So I asked him, why you see that Sierra Leone is full of scammer? So, oh, Wilhelmina, I didn't get gold. Mhm. They offer me dust gold. I see. So I told this guy, you know why? You are part of the scam. The meaning of scam, you deceive yourself. You were talking to Wilhelmina when I was in Jibora Hotel with you, and then you were being offered under value, and your eyes is bigger than a profit. So for short, he said that he was offered dust gold. Wow. So he doesn't have the money. Another American guy from New York, he flew to Sierra Leone. He said that out of 10 sellers he met, all of them are scammer. That's what he said to me. And I told this guy from New York, you're also one of the scammer. So what I did, I
Yes,
challenged him.
that's not bad.
Yeah, I challenged him. And I introduced him to my seller. And I vouch him. You know, my seller says to me, this buyer will mean that you sent to the office. He's not a buyer, he's a joker broker. Can you imagine that? Again, I communicated with him. He said, yeah, I didn't get the gold. What a waste of time. See?
Yeah. And what I've realized is that these American people, majority of them tells us that when you are in the group, they tell you that American buyers are not serious buyers and they are full of scam.
Another,
How true is it?
another situation, 2014, I was in your country in Ghana. And
Okay.
I met a lot of American guy.
Were you at Obuasi or where?
I was in Abuasi and Turqua. Because I have to travel to the
Okay.
village. But this American guy, they were stuck in the hotel. And you know, we have a happy hour in the hotel. I
Yes,
always
yes,
introduce
yes, yes.
myself. I'm Wilhelmina. How are you guys? So you know, I'm bubbly, and these three American guys and said, "Oh, we are the buyer." I said, "Oh, that's good. Did you get the gold?" And he said, "No, I will. There's a lot of scammer." Oh, there's a lot of scammer. I just been to the village, and the buyer and the seller, my seller brought 50 kilos. So while I'm having a conversation, and this American broker, their buyer put money into their bank account of $150,000. That was 2014, 2014.
Okay.
So they asked me, Wilhelmina, can you help us to get the gold? They are in Ghana. Okay, we stayed in the same hotel. And I told him, why you cannot find the gold? And you know, Wilhelmina, to be honest with you, we overspend the money. And we cannot return to America. We're embarrassed with our buyer. And I told him, wow, what amazing. Right. So what happened, guys? Please, Wilhelmina, I will give you the buyer, but we need to have a commission in order to return to America. See? See? So there's a lot of American and also traveling, pretending to be a buyer. I wouldn't believe it. I will only believe Eric when the buyer send me his information. I will believe that he's a buyer.
For you to check his background to see if the person is capable.
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
So that is how it goes.
Okay.
But anyway, Eric, nice talking to you. I will give you a copy of our conversation so that you can listen.
Okay.
You can our conversation is on YouTube and on my Facebook. I will give you a copy. I want you to listen and read and read and read. When you get the buyer, then you know how to rebuttal the buyer.
Okay.
Because buyers as well are smart. Buyers are liars as well. Right?
Exactly. So for this polish, we'll also look at it if he's also capable before we do the conference, because I've sent a message and yet still he hasn't replied. So I'm hoping that he will come and reply, and then we'll do the conference and see how positive.
Create a group chat, Eric. Create a group chat. Mali is have a tons of gold, but how are you able to pay if you don't have the money?
Yeah.
There is no upfront, Eric. There's none. Gold has to be paid. Okay. Okay, I will give you a copy on. You can go on my YouTube because our conversation is recorded, and it's better for you to learn faster. Don't keep on running around. I'm telling you, you're gonna burn out yourself. All right.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Bye. Can you imagine? I just finished having a conversation, and whoever watched this video, I'm telling you, you are lucky to meet this lady. You gain knowledge through this conversation. And Mr. Buyer, if you are watching, there is no upfront to buy this precious metal. There's none. You have to pay for it because the gold cannot leave the country of origin without export documentation that you have paid. That's impossible. You can get C.I.F. You don't have the money then. C.I.F. stand for cost, insurance, and freight. Gold business in Africa is cash business. There is no upfront. You have to be invited. You will be issued a landing visa. You send an LOI attention to Wilhelmina Ford because Wilhelmina is the seller's marketing consultant and mandate. At the same time, I am your business facilitator. So I hope you click below, subscribe on my YouTube and on Facebook. I want the buyer or the broker joker to listen and read because knowledge is very important. Knowledge is worth $1,000,000. My knowledge you gain if you don't buy, that is fine. But one day you come back because I'm the only person who put my face. My seller is real. You will never receive the information of my seller until Wilhelmina is satisfied because the full corporate offer is already on this video. Click below and click on the link. You can go on my Facebook platform. You read on every picture there's a message. There's a saying, a message paint 1,000 words. Thank you very much. Have a pleasant good evening. I just finished talking to Eric from Ghana. He has a buyer from Poland. They have a hard time to find a seller in Mali. We have tons of gold in Mali. We have tons of gold in Conakry and Sierra Leone. I want you, Mr. Buyer, to feel comfortable, relax, take time, digest and read the full corporate offer. When you make a decision, then I will believe you are a buyer. Okay? Thank you. Have a pleasant good morning to you and good evening here in Australia. We are now February 19. Mrs. Ford, this is my office. I open 7 days a week. Every day, I have to interview the buyer. Most of the buyer are joker. Now, Mr. Buyer, don't be scared to talk to Wilhelmina. The time here is 8 o'clock. My online office closed 2 o'clock in the morning, 7 days a week. Now I'm going to pray because I'm a Catholic. I'm going to have my rosary to bless you so that you will not be duped. Okay, there is no way you can get the gold without payment. Thank you very much.